You can only mean James Devine at that orchestra. But you do have, though, a strong relationship with new music, and with also composers, Ligeti, Boulez, Henri Dutilleux, people who you know and whose music you play, again, whose music you don't play in public, but the music you clearly know very well.
I adore them as personalities also. I visited them with my students, and I think how much was changed in the 20th century just by these two personalities of Boulez and Dutilleux. It's amazing. It's amazing.
So you know all their piano music, but
yes.
But then it's pieces that you won't play in public, don't play in public, choose not to?
Well, it's too difficult for me. But I'm working on it.
It would be good if you did, I think.
Yes, it would be good, yes, if I could only manage. It's, you know.
But you keep up with new music and contemporary composition. Is it important to you that the piano has a new repertoire that is continually evolving?
Absolutely.
Because a lot of pianists don't play that repertoire at all. And there's, if you look at recital programs, you would say that there isn't a new repertoire.
We're talking about two things: playing, analyzing, working on it, and selling it. I don't sell it. Let's put it this way. But I have all the scores at home. It's so many, inspiring, really inspiring pieces.
What about your own teaching, the handful of people who I think you still work with at some level?
They keep coming back for some reason. There's no one day past that I don't get a phone call from one of my former students, which is very nice.
The sort of things that you're teaching them and involving them with go far beyond the idea of, this is how you play this passage. There are many things to do with psychology, what a performer is. Where do those things come from in your own life? In other words, was that a teaching that you had from your own influences, inspirations in your early life?
Yes, but some of this I developed also myself. And some of this came of a necessity. I remember that I was asked the question, I have an interview with a student before, and the interview is not so much to discover whether the student is good, but to discover whether I'm a good teacher for the student. And I asked one student, why do you want to work with me? And he said, I listened to your last concert and I would like to play also a concert without wrong notes. I said, oh my God, this is horrible. This is just terrible. And we started to work, and he was waiting all the year. He said, when do we start to work on technique? I said, what technique? I mean, you have fingers, you put them on a keyboard and you make a sound, and there is no technique. And then 4 years later, he played his diploma, and I made a joke. I came backstage, and I said, did you realize you didn't play wrong notes? And he said, if you would have told me this 4 years ago, I wouldn't believe you, that actually achieving this, you achieve through giving meaning to every note. I mean, you're concentrated on the music flow, but you don't think, for goodness sake, about these notes or about technique in a concert hall. This is completely not important.
So how do you get to that relationship with the flow of music, with what the meaning of music is? Does that suggest that you have one idea about what this music is, that once you have the interpretation...
There is no empty passage, let's put it this way. There's no one note which you just play subconsciously. It's like a word. When it's missing in a phrase, the whole phrase doesn't make any sense. And that's what's basically necessary to do in a process of learning a piece, just giving a meaning of every sign which the composer made.
Where did you learn that from? I mean, were the pianists...
Probably from my teacher.
Who was?
Mr. Jashinsky. But I started so early with him that a lot of things I don't remember when I was 7. But it was an exciting time, and a person teaching from the right attitude for teaching, which is so rarely the case in this profession, as also in all the other professions. People do so many things for the wrong attitude.
Who were you inspired by most of when you were growing up as a pianist?
Oh, a lot of old masters and also contemporary pianists. I still learn today from people who are younger than me. And at this time, of course, all the great masters like Rubinstein, like Kempf, like Arau, like Gilels, Richter, and so on. And with most of them, I had a kind of friendship relationship. I mean, I was working with Arau for several years. I knew Michelangelo I met him several times. I knew Richter quite well. We were corresponding for many years. Also Gilels. I was for 7 years very close to Arthur Rubinstein, and I learned a lot of things from him. And you know, it's amazing when you're so much younger, because I was 71 years younger than Rubinstein. So this relationship was kind of funny, because he was saying things and I pretended that I understand them. However, memorizing them. And now when I look for solving a problem and I start to, find solutions and I start to verbalize the solutions, because that also started from the moment I started to teach, the necessity of verbalizing it, I suddenly end up with a phrase which I heard from Arthur. I said, okay, so I'm on the right way.
You're a very different pianist from a lot of those people, though, in the sense of your relationship with performing and how little you perform.
That scares me.
But in terms of, the way Rubinstein, for example, would
it was
give
a
lot of
different time. It was a different
performances
time.
and-
It was a different time. It was very funny. I remember talking with him about Brahms' recital. He opposed at first that I play Brahms' recital in Paris. He said, that will never work. And then he came to the recital and said, that was a great experience, actually. I was looking at the French and listening to a pure Brahms program, which probably 50 years ago wouldn't work. And then he said, I also played this sonata in South America. I got the music in the morning and I looked at it in my hotel room, and when I played it in the evening, I said, wait a second, how could you play this in one day? I said, we played different at this time. We sort of began the piece and then played the theme from a second movement and then improvised around the third movement. And I said, oh my God, it must have been absolutely incredible, because there was no phonography yet. The people in a concert hall didn't know the pieces. They didn't have the scores, they didn't have the records, so the pianist could do anything. And yet he could do that, what was the most important in this piece, transmitting, the most important meaning the sonata had.
The other pianist you're very different from in one regard is Sviatoslav Richter, because Richter, I think, said that he said it, I think he almost said it was a duty that a pianist ought to be able to play on any piano. That ought to be, a definition of how you perform.
I didn't
It's completely
like this
different.
part. The same said Arau, and then I noticed that in every concert hall there's this big truck of a piano carried to Arau's concert, and it was written Arau on it, the same Richter. And there was always a Yamaha, the same Yamaha carried to his concert. So it's actually unfair if you say this and then you do a different thing.
But you do have, can you just maybe describe the mechanics of how you transport your piano around?
Well,
'Cause I think you've designed your own
you can do it on
position.
any piano. You can do it standing on your head. You can do it with your feet if you really want to impress the people. The question is why? The violinist is carrying his own violin. He wouldn't dream of taking someone else's fiddle and play. Is it only because the piano is heavy? How heavy does it have to be so that you don't carry it around? I found ways how to do it, and it doesn't solve the problem, though, because the piano gets very quickly out of tune. You have to control it quite a lot. There's a lot of trouble. I tell you, I'm doing this exclusively since 1989. So it's now 19 years.
Transporting your piano,
transporting
your
my
own
own
piano around the
piano
world.
to the concert halls.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably could build 2 houses from the money I spend on piano transports. It doesn't become easier, because after 2001, it became more and more difficult, and 2 of my pianos got destroyed in America. So it's now extremely difficult to do this, but fortunately the problem is solved, because next year I play my last concert in America, and then there is a longer break.
Okay, what do you mean you play your last concert in America?
For the